Hello, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.
That is, what was that, Manny?
That was Kenny Loggins' music from the Caddyshack movie.
Caddyshack.
Remember
Uh,
the dancing the little beaver or whatever he is?
just don't do that, Manny. That was all forward there. Guys, I'm using a blue screen today. Not really, it's just the blue background of my wall because one of my buddies, I'm not going to say what it is, said, "You look too dark." And I was like, yeah, it's because I'm now more under the light. So I fixed it. So now you can see my face. And I look like a dead zombie now or dead vampire. Well, I'm Roman Bettis. I have with us Manny Fossil. And then I never pronounce your last name right, Manny.
Fossil.
Fossil. So I'm
It's like
Roman.
fossil. It's like fossil, but with an O.
Okay. And we also have with us the great state senator, the longtime state senator from the city of Brownsville, Senator Eddie Lucio Jr. Welcome, Senator. Welcome to Real Politics.
Thank
Senator,
you. Thank you, Ramon. Thank you, Manny. I'm very happy to be here.
we are going to let Senator Lucio answer some of your questions or answer our questions. But first, we want to give Senator Lucio an opportunity to tell us who he is and give us an intro. Normal thing you would expect in a forum, but it's not necessarily a debate. It's just us having a wonderful conversation. So welcome, everybody. Senator Lucio, please tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Ramon, and good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to visit with all of you in the wake of this general election that is upon us in a few days. I was born in Brownsville, Texas, and I was one of 10 kids. We were 6 boys and 4 girls. We're down to 9. We lost a brother who was an outstanding singer and musician, Joe Lucio. Many of the people that I run into in the valley obviously knew him very well. Um, our parents instilled in us the importance of an education. So we went through our public school education, and 9 of us completed our university studies. Seven of us went into the field of education because they felt that the teacher was the ultimate in society. Men and women that had chosen the teaching profession, los profesores, las profesoras, were important to the families of many that grew up in our communities here in the Rio Grande Valley, especially Brownsville, which was the biggest, most populous community. Um, we um, we grew up in the Bougainvillea project because we couldn't find a rent home. We're a big family, and my dad had come back from the war, had been here several years, attended Texas Southmost College, and um, we grew up there, and we're very proud to be members of the Bougainvillea Housing Authority there here in Brownsville. Uh, as I mentioned, we were just completely committed to educating ourselves and helping one another. And I went on to teach. I was a football, basketball, and track coach. Um, but during the period of time that I was going to high school, I became a golfer. I picked up an old club that was out in the alley where we moved into 535 West Madison, there next to Villa Maria High School. For some that might know where that is, uh, and it's off Jefferson Street, West Jefferson, and it was a love affair, like anybody who loves sports. I picked it up and I became pretty good. I was a caddy. I caddied for some very good players. I met um, you know golfers that went on to stardom, um, and I can tell you that was the greatest thing that could have happened to me because it opened up many doors. I played with presidents, governors, actually governors that became president, and a lot of officials in the state of Texas and outside the state when I traveled once in a while in years past. But all my brothers actually became great golfers. My dad didn't like the game, uh, but he took it up himself and would go to mass on Saturday late in his life, and so he could play golf the next morning with his compadres. Anyway, long story. I got a golf scholarship. I was able to get my education at Texas Southmost College, Texas A&I University. But I graduated from Pan American University, and I just enjoyed my years as teaching and coaching. But something, I had an urge of working at the courthouse, because my dad worked 30 years there and was able to um, know what public service was all about. I picked his brain. And right before I entered, something significant happened to me. And I think it was God sent. I asked my dad to give me some advice. And what should I always remember, Dad? And he said, son, people don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. So when you go out there campaigning and you talk about issues, listen attentively, understand what the people need and want, and deserve, and you go after that. And I think they'll give you a chance. And he was right. I got elected county treasurer at the young age of 24. I was 25 right after I got sworn in. I spent 8 years there, and then I ran for county commissioner, won there. And then I actually lost the race in 1982 when I ran for re-election as a county commissioner after redistricting. But that's a story in its own that I'd rather not go into. It just happened, but I think it was a great blessing, um, because a few years later I ran for state representative, won that position, and then in 1990 I ran for state senator and was able to win there again. And I've been there ever since. I've been in the legislature 34 years, and I've enjoyed what I've done, what I've been involved with, and all. And that's what I want to talk to you all about tonight, briefly, and then I'll be more than happy to discuss any issues. But once again, it's an honor to be with you all tonight and to share with you how um, throughout the years, have helped our communities and our residents with opportunities to increase their quality of life. Thankfully, I have a very viable track record and have worked with many nonprofits, housing, colonia, family, and children advocates who have testified in front of our committees at the state capitol of the benefits of the bills I've authored and passed into law, and which shows my record of helping our constituents to be accurate and truthful. And I really would like people to look up my legislative record. It's important for them to know, what I've done during these years. The record shows that when our constituents were being taken advantage of by unscrupulous developers, um, out in the rural areas of the county, I worked with housing and colonia advocates and attorneys throughout the years to provide rights to and to protect low income families. The record shows that when teachers needed help in finding low interest home loans, I worked with the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, it's called TSHAC, to dedicate $25 million of private activity bond allocations to issue qualified mortgage bonds to fund the TSHAC. Then it was the Teachers Home Loan Program, and subsequently added professional educators to the list of individuals who may apply for TSHAC's low interest, and now they're called Homes for Texas Heroes uh, Home Loan Program. The record shows this. Uh, I hear your voices, your ideas, your concerns, your best interests. It's evident by my legislative accomplishments that they matter. I see you, I hear you, and I have stood by you. Why? Because to me, the lives of educators, the lives of our children with disabilities, the lives of working families, and the lives of the impoverished, the poor, and the disadvantaged in our communities are the reasons why I am a public servant. There will be several priorities next session, helping the state and our communities overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, which caught the world by surprise, will be one of the main priorities next session. Then we will have two constitutional duties uh, that we need to address. The number one issue is the budget, obviously, and undertaking the highly contentious withdrawing of district lines through redistricting will be among the key issues next session. And that comes after the census, as you know. As far as COVID-19, um, In regard to handling COVID-19, I am thankful that I have been working with our state leaders in leading the state's response to COVID. If you check my Senate webpage, you will see a number of letters I have written to our state leaders and state heads from the onset of the pandemic. My engagement with the governor and state leaders led me to be one of two state senators in Texas to be appointed to the advising our state's commissioner of health on his COVID-19 vaccination advisory panel. The only other senator appointed is the chairwoman of the Health and Human Services Committee. Her name is Senator Lois Cohorst from a Republican from Victoria. Now, as chairman of the Senate Committee on Intergovernmental Relations, which has jurisdictions over cities, counties, and regional forms of government, as well as my appointment to the Department of State Health Services Task Force of Border Health Officials, it will help me utilize my years of work on public health matters to echo the needs of minorities in the South Texas region when it comes to the steps Texas will be taking in the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine. We must continue to be vigilant with this coronavirus because the border region, especially our part of the state, has disproportionately been negatively impacted by COVID. What the El Paso, Texas region is currently experiencing is what we in the valley experienced during the summer. However, what we went through over the summer was without the increased infrastructure and capacity that the West Texas region has. El Paso has, for example, a large military base, Fort Blitz, with a military hospital, a public hospital, a public health district, two things that we don't have in the valley, uh, a fully fledged medical school. We're there already, but they have several private hospitals. That is why the state needs to be reminded and understand the needs of our part of the border. Our lack of infrastructure and capacity of the South Texas region requires increased attention by the state of Texas. Uh, Lastly, we're going to be working on a budget. That is of major importance, and I'm sure you will have some questions that I can address. But in essence, that's what I wanted to uh, open up in terms of my opening remarks with, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Comments. Sorry, you'll be seeing a lot of comments on there. Where we do this for our guests, we do not post harsh, negative comments with vulgar stuff. Just so you all know, for anybody that comes on, doesn't matter who it is. But if you have a tough question, feel free to post it. Manny was in control of it, not myself. I have no control over it. I can only control my questions. And so there was a reason why we did Caddyshack as the opening. But first, Manny, can you please put the crawl on for me? RioPolitics Live today is specially powered by Mai's Restaurant, which is a colorful Mexican restaurant located in Brownsville's National Historic District. You can find them on 239 West St. Charles Street. Their number is 956-408-0364. Please visit them. They have great food there. They're very much coronavirus safe. I can vouch for that, being germaphobe that I am. And I think, Senator Lucio, you go there frequently. And you've been to Mai's, and I'm sure you love their food. I would ask you what your favorite food is there, but think about that, because that will be a question during rapid fire.
Okay.
Senator, as a parent myself, I am a conservative, tend to be very conservative. You, sir, you are, for lack of a better word, a conservative, moderate to center right. I wouldn't classify you in any way, shape, or form of a liberal or progressive. Would you agree with that sentiment, that you're more of center right kind of a politically ideology, or would you consider yourself a liberal?
You know, quite frankly, I don't like to label myself. You know, I'm an American of Mexican descent. I'm a public servant. I work with everyone that not only I represent, but those that I work with representing other areas of the state. I am a Democrat. When there's a need, a tremendous need, like Medicaid or any expansion or anything else that make sure that our families don't go to bed hungry. I vote, to get those funds no matter what. Some people might call that liberalism. I call it, addressing the need of our constituents, our brothers and sisters, our neighbors. Um, when it comes to moral issues, obviously, I grew up in the Catholic Church. My mom and dad took all 10 of us and sat us in the front pew 30 minutes before the mass started. So I grew up valuing, the life issues and other issues that go with the teachings of the church. Um, so I guess I'm conservative on some issues, if you want to call me that, and then moderate or liberal when it comes to, if you want to call me that also, if it comes to helping the needy, the poor, the homeless, and those that need my help. I never put myself on one basic category. I just do what I have to do to take care of the people in my district, and that's it. I can't hear you.
Apologize. I try to mute myself when I'm texting Manny because I don't want clacking noise. So thanks
Sure.
for reminding me. The reason I ask you that question is because you are a parent, and as a parent myself, it's been a little bit difficult to try to make. I mean, I raised my children to be conservative, to love their country, to come at it from a small government sort of background, to use their Catholicism because I too am Catholic. But I find that the younger generation, for some reason, they turn almost the opposite of you. And so you're a parent, and I wanted to ask how it is you balance that out, because your son is a state representative, and he tends to be more, center left, and as opposed to compared to you. So how do you balance that out as a parent, and not just
Sure.
as a parent, but also as a state senator?
Well, I was reared by a dad who was a disabled American veteran of foreign wars. He preached Americanism, patriotism every day of his life. My mother pitched in with citizenship. We were good neighbors. I remember many a time walking down the alley with whatever food we had left over to feed hungrier families down the what we call El Callejon. And I taught, my wife and I have been married 52 years. We have two children. My daughter, who is the eldest, and then my son, as you mentioned, who's a state representative now. They're highly educated. They're extremely good people. Got wonderful hearts. Yes, you know, uh, peer pressure and changes that have happened in our world takes an effect, and I am one that understands and accepts that. I need to be understanding and caring and loving no matter what direction this generation takes, and supporting. I support. I really truly support the young people. I was stopped last night at HEB by various couples, young couples, who told me they had voted for me. They appreciated all the things that we had been working on in the course of my public service. So, I pray for them. You're right. I do a lot of praying.
You
I pray
do.
for peace. We pray that for health and safety. That's the most important thing. But I'm inclusive of everyone in our world, not just my family.
Yeah. So because earlier this week, I was moved by the photos that you posted. You led procession, a Eucharistic procession. You were with your cassock and your surplice, and you were using the processional cross. And I got to tell you, that moved me, because as a Catholic, it's good to see an elected official willing to do that. And what made you? I'm assuming you were an altar boy when you were younger. Maybe you were. I'm assuming you were. But if you weren't, you look really good as an altar boy this week. What has made you this way? What
But
has brought you up to be like this?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I consider myself the world's oldest altar boy, I guess. At this point, my five brothers were all altar boys, all of them.
Uh,
Joe and David and Bobby and Ricky and Jesse, they were all altar boys. I was the only one that was not, because
Oh wow!
there was a gap. There was a gap when I was young. Um, but right after me came a couple of sisters, and then the brothers that were all altar boys. and I felt like I had lost out, quite frankly. So when my dad took me to church the first day I was to report to the courthouse as a county treasurer, he said, pick me up at 15 till 6. I picked him up. I thought we were going to go get a taquito and talk a little bit and visit. Father and son talk. No, he took me down to the Immaculate Conception Cathedral in Brownsville. We attended mass. We went to communion, and that was the greatest lesson. I think that in making sure he knew that I was going to be putting people first, and caring for people. So, I decided at that point that it would be good for me to go to mass as much as possible on a daily basis. He worked there for a long time, and I quite frankly, I followed his lead. He
Yeah.
taught me public service. So, um, I'm just thankful that I had that upbringing. My wife and I have tried our best to make sure our kids are good people, and they're responsible, and they are, and that they always are there for people. Being a good neighbor is everything.
Mhm. Your position in Catholicism, and there's going to be some questions that have popped up. For example, the special needs question. I will be talking about that. Ask that question, so don't feel I'm ignoring your questions. Some of these questions I wanted to progress in a certain way. I like telling a story, and many times, being that you are a Catholic, and I'm a Catholic. I find sometimes that we have Catholics that are in public office, that are running for public office, that hold a position against life. And I'm not just talking about abortion, I'm talking about the death penalty. So I want to focus first on the abortion issue, and then I'll talk about the death penalty issue, because you've been a staunch opponent of the death penalty. And your feelings on abortion is why so many conservative Republicans are willing to support you in Senatorial District 27. So, what is it about the life issue that you find so passionate about? And I feel like you're passionate about it. What is it about it?
I have I have, like I said, 9 brothers and sisters, uh, 8 left, and all of them have been an inspiration to me, whether they're older or younger. I only have an older sister, but I learned from all of them. My brother Bobby summed it up perfectly when he said, "Eddie, I've been looking at you, and I think you're pro-lifetime, like I am." And I was so happy to hear him say that. Pro-lifetime means from conception to natural death. In 2005, I authored a bill, Senate Bill 60, to establish life without parole in Texas, and to provide Texas jurors a third option for those who commit horrible crimes, like violent murder, but who do not receive the death penalty, so that they can stay in prison for the remainder of their natural lives, with no options for early parole and no good time credit, so that they can never walk public streets, to harm another victim. Um, they were giving them the death penalty. I'm against the death penalty. So that has worked, by the way. In 2007, I authored Senate Bill 74 to establish an address confidentiality program to protect the identity of victims of family violence, sexual assault, and stalking. This bill allows victims to conceal their whereabouts to protect them from further violence and abuse, so that they could not be found by their assailants. And then later in 2015, I authored Senate Bill 1853 to protect our communities from the cartel related crimes such as human trafficking. We better protect our communities from cartel related crimes by building on the Texas Department of Public Safety's existing authority of working with local law enforcement to prevent and discover crime, apprehend criminals, and promote public safety, to establish a program to prevent and detect the unlawful possession of unlawful and imminent movement or transfer of these prisoners. So I can tell you this: everything that I've done has been related to saving lives, whether it's been the life of the unborn, or those that have committed these crimes that I don't want to see them commit others to members of society. So I appreciate the question. It's not a hard one for me to talk about or to vote on. Many people think it's a hard issue for me, and it's not. It's something that I learned from my parents. It's something that I learned from the church I go to. But let me say this: you don't have to be a Catholic, quite frankly, to uh, respect the sanctity of life, and many people aren't. Um, I just would hope and pray that someday soon, that my party would add that to the state agenda and the national agenda of our party. That's what I would like to see happen.
And I think it's unfortunate because in my personal opinion, the Democratic Party has moved away from that. There used to be an acceptance of the pro-life position, and you being a Catholic, you got a lot of flack there when Wendy Davis, who conservatives like myself called abortion Barbie, who's now running for Congress. She made her national name for herself and ended up running for governor, and again now Congress, against Chip Roy, because she stood up against people like you who were pro-life. And you have taken a lot of flack from your fellow Democrats on the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So how do you balance that out? How is it? How do they treat you? You had a tough primary. I voted for you in the primary. You had a tough primary because of your position on life. And how do you balance that out? How do you other than praying, how do you convince them to say, this is okay to be pro-life and be a Democrat?
Well, John Paul II said, "Do not be afraid," and I wasn't afraid. Not voting. I would rather lose an election and stand up for my beliefs and principles. But I felt safe, quite frankly. The Valley is a lot different than Austin, Texas, and other parts of the state that are more. They will probably not support somebody with my background. I don't think I would probably win in Austin, but here in the Valley is different. We have a lot of families that obviously are close to their religion, their cultural background. Leads them to do everything possible to. They're a community of faithful, is what I want to say, and I think I'm blessed to be able to represent, a sector of the state like that.
Yeah, and this is sort of a question that I try to ask. How do you believe your faith plays a role in how you legislate, much like a person who's a small businessman or a business owner, using that background and using that how to legislate, how to vote on issues, or being a lawyer and using that background? Do you believe that your faith plays a similar background in how you make decisions on certain issues in the legislature?
Well, you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can be a scientist, and still believe in God. I believe that's so important. To me, it's gotta be meaningful. When I step on that Senate floor, I can't separate my faith from my decision making. Um, yes, I've had a hard time convincing members of my own party that that's what we should be doing, because I think that is what God wants us to do. We'll find out. All of us will. I do. I never point the finger at anyone. I'm not judgmental. I can't be. Because that's not my role. My role is to try to protect the unborn. My role is to protect and help the children or adults with disabilities. And I just want to do everything I can, but I don't believe I can separate my faith from my decision making.
I'm going to ask you a quick question on the death penalty, and then Manny's going to have a question for you, Senator.
Sure.
Um, your position on life without parole is, unfortunately, some people in the Catholic Church and our faith, to a certain extent, I think even the Holy Father now seems to believe that having lifetime in parole is another form of the death penalty and is wrong. I don't agree with that position, but I'm just curious what your position is on. Do you think it's another form of the death penalty, and that we shouldn't have that either as
Well,
Catholics?
we have had a lot of instances where we have found out, even after someone has been given the death penalty, that new evidence came out and they were actually innocent. Um, so we would have had life without parole. Those people would have been able to walk out of prison.
Mhm.
Life without parole, it really goes hand in hand with being pro-life, because you don't sentence someone to death.
Right.
Um, they're given everything while they're incarcerated.
Mhm.
Um, it's actually cheaper, to tell you the truth, to have someone serve life without parole than to be given the death penalty, because of all the appeals process that takes place.
Mhm.
So if you want to look at it
Yeah, no, and I
at
agree with you.
economic standpoint, but no, I respectfully disagree with anyone who feels that that's another form of a death. It's not. It's keeping society safe.
Mhm.
We know that a lot of the ones that had come out before that were not given the death penalty, after they served a certain number of years, then they were let go and they would murder again. They would kill again, and it was somebody's loved ones.
Right.
It could have been your own. It could have been the neighbors. It could have been someone we didn't know, but it was someone's loved ones. So that wasn't a hard thing for me to work on. And I'm not an attorney, but I was able to work on that and be able to, I was able to pass it. It took a little while because it required, at the time that I passed it, it required a two-thirds vote of the Senate, and I only had 20 votes. I needed 21. So
Mhm.
for 6 years, I struggled with that one, and I finally got it done.
Because there's a lot of bipartisanship that needs to happen in the Senate. And continue on with the death penalty question. The reason I bring this up is because, you and I've said this to our mutual friend Ruben Obel, who I went to college with, and is your son's chief of staff. You are the one person that actually has moved me from being massively pro death penalty. Nobody, not a priest, not a bishop, not the pope. You have, because you have always been this way since I've known of you. And so I respect you for your position. That's why I wanted to bring that up, and why some people in our faith seem to think that life without parole is somehow a bad thing and another form of death penalties. But Manny had a question for you involving special needs.
Let me add this
Yeah.
before you,
Oh, sorry.
Manny. But life, protecting life is more than just the death penalty or not having an abortion.
Right.
Protecting life and addressing quality of life also takes a legislator like myself, and I did this. I introduced a bill that passed $450 million of bonds that would go to water, wastewater projects in our state, uh, and in the high impoverished areas like the valley, got millions and millions of dollars that afforded them to have the water they needed, to the colonias infrastructure that uh, gave their families life instead of death.
Yes, that's a good point. Manny?
Very good. Senator, the topic keeps coming up in a lot of the comments. I have not posted them, not to be repetitive, but it seems your opponent is taking credit for special needs and everything that they have done and everything that you have not done. And I would like you to enlighten us on your efforts and your thoughts and your feeling on special needs and the children.
Can I share a little story? It's most important. I had this last year. I had a reporter before COVID that came to the Capitol. Actually, it was it was not during the session. It was after, when we had all announced for reelection and all. And that reporter out of Austin asked me, "What was your biggest triumph as a state legislator?" I could have said bringing the University of Texas system, which I did in a bill that I carried, creating the first medical school in 1997. I could have said passing $175 million worth of bonds to build roads in colonias and many, many other things. But you know what I told him? I says, the greatest thing in my heart that I feel I did was for special needs kids. It took me 6 years because I was fighting the insurance companies. I had 20 votes. I needed 21 to pass a bill that would help autistic children get early intervention attention or treatments. I finally did it. But what took place, and it's in video, people can see this, and the reporter didn't believe me. I got very emotional. The members of the committee got very emotional, and I gave him the bill number and everything. He looked it up. He didn't believe me, and then he called me back to apologize. I said, Senator, I saw it. You were right. It was unbelievable. When those families came to our committee, broken in half because they had sold their homes, had exhausted their savings to get those early intervention treatments. This is what was happening. Those children were being dropped from the rolls when they were diagnosed with autism, and the insurance companies weren't paying for those treatments. But let me give you a little rundown, if I may, on special needs. I guarantee you that there are very few people that can share with you what I'm about to share. Senate Bill 589, for example, behavioral analysis licensing. I passed that. It established a regulatory framework for the practice of applied behavioral analysis, ABA is called, in order to ensure accountability for practitioners and high quality of care for persons using these devices. Senate Bill 507, classroom cameras. Through that bill, we granted parents of special needs children the right to request a closed circuit camera in their children's classrooms in order to deter abuse and provide evidence in cases where abuse does occur. Senate Bill 1398 clarified the intent of the original classroom cameras bill and made technical changes to ease implementation for school districts and parents. The state helped in setting those up. House Bill 1286 that I sponsored in the Senate, expansion of injury to disabled and individual penalty. This bill expanded the protections of Texas's injury to a disabled person offense to include persons of any age with autism, intellectual and developmental disabilities, or other disabilities. Senate Bill 492 and House Bill 2340 prescribe pediatric extended care services. Senate Bill 492 established the licenses of prescribed pediatric care centers. House Bill 3685, rehabilitative work training programs. House Bill 642, educator continuing education, and the list goes on. And it's in my website. And I would ask people before they make statements to the effect that I do not care or that I have not been working. Special Olympics, I was chosen to head up a Special Olympics event in West Local, Texas. That was one of the biggest honors I've ever had. So in my heart, I feel like you all and those listening, we need to address the needs of our special needs children and our special needs adults. Right now, I'm working to try to help veterans that have special needs to find employment, to be able to sustain themselves. I want to do everything I can while I'm in the Texas Senate, and I have the support of both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. It's something that a lot of people can say.
Yeah, I can actually, not to defend you, Senator, but one of my good friends is Sergio Zarate, who works for you in the legislature, and he is a massive advocate for special needs. And you wouldn't have him on your staff if you didn't believe in special needs.
I have him there for that.
Yeah, for that specific reason. And he, along with his advocacy, not just within your office, but outside your office, spells good for those special needs children in our school districts. Yes. There is Marcos has this question. I haven't read any of y'all's questions because I feel like some of those questions I'm going to ask. But this is a question. Are there any initiatives you support that increase state funding for mental health care for the indigent?
mental health care for the indigent obviously is most important. Not only for those that are out in the public, obviously that are they're very poor, but even those that are incarcerated. We need to address the mental health needs of those incarcerated and provide services instead of just keeping them incarcerated. We need to give them professional help. Um, I was serving on I served on finance many years. That's the committee that actually um, writes up the budget. And somebody made a statement, please give Lucio chairmanship. He's going to drive our state into debt, because I wanted to help. I wanted to make sure we did everything we could for healthcare services to everyone, but especially children and adults with special needs and mental health needs. The people that came to testify in committee, you have to be there to listen, to see the needs in our state. Texas is not a poor state. The pandemic has cost us a lot of problems. But before that came, Texas was able to come up with the funds that we have, and not only our rainy day fund, but in our budget to address these issues. I will continue to support any initiative that will increase state funding for mental health care for the indigent, especially the indigent who can't take care of themselves.
The breakdown of the Senate, the state Senate, hey Rose, is fascinating. Right now, Republicans have little by little lost control of the Senate. They're still in control of the Senate. They still have a majority of the Senate, but that 2/3 vote then became a 3/5 vote. Now it's a little bit different. How do you feel? Why? I know you have a Republican opponent, but the senatorial district 27 is broken down where gerrymandered essentially, but just because it's a Democrat seat. There's almost no way Republicans going to win. You're the closest thing to a Republican we're going to get. Dr. Joe Binder, who you knew, the late great Dr. Joe Binder was a mentor of mine, would always tell me, Roman, because I was a Republican at the time and I'm just a conservative. He's like, if you scratch Senator Lucio just a little bit, you're going to find he's a Republican, so you'll be happy. He would tell me, that's a socialist telling me that. Joe Biden would say that. But the breakdown is important. The bipartisanship of the state Senate is important. Do you feel that the state Senate will become a Democrat seat after this election cycle, or are you still going to be the minority and having to work with Republicans to get things done for senatorial district 27?
You could do a whole show just on the issue you just brought up.
I know.
Roundtable discussion. It's an incredible, wonderful thing to talk about. When I went into the Senate on January of 1991, there was 23 Democrats and 8 Republicans in the Texas Senate. There's 31. There was 23 Democrats and 8 Republicans. Today, there's 19 Republicans and 12 Democrats. Now, I voted to require, I went from the 2/3 to the 3/5, and the reason I did it was because there was 3 bills that I had a hard time passing. I mentioned the Life Without Parole, 6 years. The bill that helped autistic children, 6 years, because I needed that 1 vote to get to 21. And another one was a bill that I carried because TxDOT, you know what TxDOT is? The Texas Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
They handle billions and billions of dollars, and it was a 3-member commission. My bill expanded it to 5, so that every region in this big state of Texas could have representation. Right? It took me 3 sessions as well to finally get to 21. So when I changed that, when I voted to change it to 19, everyone prospered. I was criticized for it because, but everybody prospered. Everybody came back to my desk and said, you know what? You helped me pass my bill, but they won't admit it. They won't admit it. Now, so we're at 12. We're getting closer to that threshold that we need, that we need that 3/5. If you bring it to a simple majority, you'll get even closer to if you really want to take over the Senate, you need to get to 16. That means you need 4 Democratic senators. I'm not interested in control. I'm interested in working together bipartisanly because that's what the people of Texas want. And I have been able to find a way to do that. When people come to my committee, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, I help them pass all their local bills. Why? Because that is what I've told a lot of freshman senators. I said, look, if you want to be able to work with people, don't ever vote against a member's local bill. If it doesn't affect you, help him, help her, get back home to allow them to be successful with their agenda. So I've done that.
Right.
And I have the necessary votes. There's 12 Democrats. That means we need 7 Republicans to pass a bill. Am I going to be able to get to 19 by throwing bombs in their faces? No.
Nope.
I have to work with them.
Yeah,
we have to work together.
Yeah, and that's what I think separates you from a lot of the bombastic Democrats and even to a certain extent even the bombastic Republicans on there is working together, and that's what the Texas Senate has always been about. Although I think Pete Flores might lose this next election, so the Republicans might get to only 18. They might lose another state Senate, getting them to 17. But I think that's probably going to be their low bar this year. But maybe, depending on the suburbs, I guess, depending on the high turnout. And that's what I wanted to talk about next is the national politics. Senator, Vice President, former Vice President Joe Biden's staff is bringing down a bus caravan throughout the state of Texas, but they're not coming to the Valley. They're the closest they're going to come to the Valley is Laredo and Corpus. And do you believe, as a Democrat, that that's good strategy on the Biden campaign not to completely ignore the 1.4 million people that live in the Valley? I know that some people like to think that Laredo is part of the Rio Grande Valley, but they're not. They're not. Just a simple, they're not. What do you think? Is the Biden campaign trying their best to win the Valley to make sure that they get an increased amount of votes? What are your thoughts?
Well, the Valley has a lot to offer, and quite frankly, in the old days, it was the saying. They said, "How South Texas goes, the state goes." I mean, we were very strong politically, so the lesson taught then was to come together in unity. The primaries are over. Okay, so Eddie Lucio is pro-life, and I'm not. But 98% of the time he's with our programs. So why don't we come together and work together and be strong together? I don't agree with everything that's going on at the national level. There's too much hate, too much animosity, too much division in both parties, quite frankly, and it keeps us from being able to get things done. I hope that changes with your generation and the generation that's listening. I have a lot of faith in you. I know that you have the potential. You're already showing it by coming up in big numbers. The more people that vote from the Valley, politicians at the state and federal level understand and respect numbers. Remember that. If we come out at 25% or 22%, and Corpus comes out at 40%, where are they going to apply their attention? Where are they going to go to? Or Laredo comes out with 45%. But if we come out with 65, then we're a power. That's power. Anything over that is a superpower because it's unheard of, for us to be able to reach that milestone. Coming out 7 out of 10 people voting, why not? I mean, I had a friend that worked for me many years ago. He says, make it like a Roman holiday, una celebración romana where everybody comes out, parties and votes, and that's what I like to see. I like to see people be more issue-oriented. I want people to practice their faith a little bit more and be good neighbors to one another. And that's all you can ask for because we're just passing through and we need to do the right thing.
A couple of things about this particular election cycle. You have the turnout model. The turnout for the Valley has not been as high. I had a Twitter disagreement with your colleague in State Representative Terry Canales. He didn't reply to my comment, but he was somehow claiming that Hidalgo County has surpassed, and this was late Sunday night, early Monday morning, had surpassed the early vote turnout of 2016. I'm like, they haven't done it. It has not happened because he's conflating and combining mail-in ballot with early vote numbers. And I'm saying, if with 2 extra days of early vote, Hidalgo County hasn't surpassed 2016 numbers. There's an enthusiasm problem, and that's why I found it completely strange, completely odd. And I voted for President Trump. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Trump supporter. I am. But I still love politics. And so to find that the Biden campaign is completely ignoring Hidalgo County, completely ignoring Cameron County, it's troubling. We have 1.4 million people here, and they seem not to care. And there's probably a bigger opportunity for people to come out to vote here than they are in Laredo and Nueces in Corpus if they're already coming out. There's only so much lemon juice you can squeeze out of a lemon. So that's kind of why I wanted to ask you, what are you, you're a Biden supporter, I assume. What can you advise the campaign to say, should they come to the Valley? Why are you not coming to the Valley? Why are you ignoring us?
Well, I'm disappointed, like anyone else, that our national candidates and leaders to be are not taking the Valley seriously. But over the years, it's been our fault. They're looking at old statistics probably, and it's time for us to send a clear message that we do count, that we're going to make a difference. But that's up to us individually, and then collectively, we're going to look strong. That's what I've always fought for. I want people to go out in big numbers. And I want people to be issue oriented, because if they're issue oriented, then I'll be okay. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, I'm not doing this because
Sure.
people ask comments. I'm like, I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
That was my last question, Daniel. So I'll ask that question at the end. The previous question, a Victoria's question, was, can you ask that question? I'm assuming that this is the reason why Manny's posting that question a couple times. This is not my question, Victoria's question. She is, I believe, a support of yours. So she's asking this question. What do you say to the rumors and articles that mention you live a lavish lifestyle and spend millions of dollars?
Victoria, I wanted to get in there and actually let you know that those rumors, there's no truth to it. I can show you my IRS reports. I can show you my bank accounts. I can show you. I I don't own my home. The bank does. I pay a mortgage like everyone else. I built a home because I wanted my either my kids or my grandchildren someday to move back with us. We have a 4-bedroom home out in the country on a 10-acre tract. I'm constantly doing everything I can to earn whatever money I can to address, the maintenance of that home. Um, I, I don't have any bonds of any kind, stocks of any kind. I don't play any kind of games with money. I just live a normal life. Uh, I'm blessed that I'm able to take care of my responsibilities and maintain a home. My wife worked all her life when we were married. She retired. My kids are doing well because they got a great education, and I want everybody's kids to have a good education. Being well off doesn't mean that you are living a lavish lifestyle and spend millions. I haven't made millions. It would take me several lifetimes to make millions, as other people do. Other people do it in one lifetime. I would have to take maybe several lifetimes to get to that point.
We're going to do rapid fire next, if that's okay, Senator.
Sure.
Quick question here.
I was going to ask the question at the end, but I guess you're going to ask it now. Where's the after party going to be at after you win this election?
Well, we're going to have to continue to be as responsible as we can to make sure that we don't spread the coronavirus. I would rather just see you like we are now, give toast to the future, continue to promise to come together, work together. I'm not gonna. I don't have a party set up of any kind. I will be here, and my doors are wide open for you and those your listeners, those that look at your show. I respect everyone out there. But please, all I ask is look at the things that are written down that have credence and value. I don't go with rumors or misconceptions or misleadings. I try to live the life that I that you're looking at me living and live it right. I hope that we can come together at some point after this virus is gone. We have hopefully a window of opportunity with that vaccine, and hopefully that'll be the case. If we do, then we'll have another super pachanga.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And you won't see me there because I don't go out in public very much. I did go to your Little Joe thing that you happened last year with Little Joe and Ramon Ayala, which was a fun show, but it was very uncomfortable. It's just being there. You have way too many people there. The rapid fire questions are going to come up. Random questions. Number one, who is the better golfer? You, Bob, your brother Jesse, or your sister Mary Helen?
Well, Mary Helen is the least. No, probably Mary Helen because she plays on the red tees.
She's a very good golfer. She's really is.
Actually, the best golfer in the family today is Jesse's daughter, Julie.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen her since she was little. She showed my daughter one time when Fort Brown was open, and Dana, my daughter, was just whoa, she's really good. I want to be like her. The other question is, what is your foursome? If you were to play with three other people, living or dead, who would you want to play with golf?
Well, I think Payne Stewart. I wear knickers.
Yes.
I would love to play with him. I would love to play with Lee Trevino. I caddied for him one time at Rancho Viejo when he came down when I was a county commissioner. I know Lee. And probably, someone that I idolized when as a golfer when I was a kid, Arnold Palmer. I liked him very much.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to choose one out of all golfers that have ever lived, I'd like to tee it up with Tiger.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, there's your foursome right there. Well, you'll be the fifth, I guess. That would be an awesome foursome.
But don't forget Eddie, my son. He had a golf scholarship at Texas Tech. He was a great junior golfer, and he can still hit the ball a country mile. Ruben Obel thinks he's a good golfer, but I think I can take him on anytime.
Okay, in your heyday, Senator, could you beat Ruben Obel in his heyday? Because he's not
beat me
good
one
anymore.
time only. He shot even par in Mexico many years ago when he was a kid, and I went out of bounds. And anyway, he's a great young man. I love him dearly. I've known him since he was a little boy. I caught him watching the Duke of Hazzards on television, and he's been my little friend all these years.
Yeah, good little guy. He's not so little anymore, but I give him a hard time. Just one of these days, he's gonna go bald. I'm just gonna laugh at him. And
but I like to tee it up with my son Eddie. I love to see his swing. It's a classic swing.
Really?
Hits the ball a country mile, and he keeps it in play. My brother Bobby was a great golfer. He's got a great background. My brother Jesse had so many trophies. We ran out of room in the attic where we were putting them all because they didn't fit in the house. All my brothers. My brother Joe was the best in terms of average. He never won a tournament like me, but I was captain of the golf team in the early '60s. I was a scratch golfer. Yeah. But my brother Joe was a great musician, great singer, and a great golfer.
What is your driver right now in your bag? Assuming you're playing right now, able to play, what's your driver?
Well, I have several drivers. I like them all, quite frankly. I grew up with Wilson Staff. That was our driver back in the days. I like what Tiger's hitting, but most people are using, those big head drivers. I have several drivers. I don't have any one of them that's special. I hit them all basically the same, but I've gone from a stiff to a regular shaft now.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well,
The older you get, the more flexible the shaft has to be. You don't swing as hard,
yeah. No,
and you know that.
no, I'm a horrible. I mean, I picked up golf late in life, and I love it. I haven't gone out and played in, I want to say, at least a year, and I like playing. What was the first time you wore those knickers? Because you're famous for those knickers and those hats and that look. What was the first time, and what were the looks like when you wore those the first
First, I
time?
want to make it clear I do have every color of knicker out there possible, but that's because I have someone that makes them for $20 each in
Okay.
Mexico. My knickers are made in Mexico. I send them the material to make the knickers. I don't get them out of the internet because they're too expensive.
Mhm.
Um, the first time I wore them was 1989. There was a tournament at Onion Creek Country Club with the seniors. I went out to see them and actually played with one of the super seniors. And then I saw the officials with sky blue knickers, a pink shirt, white socks, and white shoes with a white, beat like one of those white paint short caps.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the dress, that dress code. And so I went into the clubhouse a week later. There was still some left over. So I bought a pair of socks for $5. The knickers were 15. The shirt was 20. And I dressed myself up for less than $60 with a beautiful knicker. I went over to play golf at Fort Brown Memorial Golf Course in Brownsville, the public course. And when I got there and the guys saw me, they all turned around and says, "Man, I always wanted to meet Payne Weber." And I said, "You got the wrong Payne. It's Payne Stewart."
There you go.
But anyway, that's a true story. I've been wearing them since 1989.
Wow. No, and what is the craziest getup you've had? And there's nothing wrong with them. I actually wish I could have owned one and played with one once. But what is the craziest getup? The one that you think you have?
And
Or
are there pictures?
I
other
I
pictures? And other
I
pictures.
the craziest. I wear lime green and everlasting purple. And a red
Ooh.
hat. I mean, I dress in wild colors.
Mhm.
Hopefully, setting getting my competitor to maybe look at me instead of concentrating on his game.
That's a good
But no,
idea.
I dress with every color out there. But lately I've been trying to keep it more conservative. For some
Okay.
reason, I want the grays, I want the blues, I want the. I have an outfit I just put together, TCU outfit, because I've been invited later this year
Purple.
to Fort Worth, and that's where my daughter graduated from, TCU. She was a cheerleader for the Horned Frogs, and Eddie was a Red Raider, and then he came and graduated from Texas. So he married wisely. He married an Aggie. Uh,
Hmm.
my daughter-in-law is an Aggie. My son-in-law is Texas boy, Texas Longhorn. So I try to dress with have the dress colors of all the universities, and also I even have colors for San Francisco 49ers. I like their colors, and I
Yeah.
have all kinds of socks and everything. I'm going to leave all of that to my grandchild, hopefully. But I'm going to tell you something before I go, because I know you're winding down. Do you have another question
Oh no, no.
relative to
I
some of?
have a question. No, I
I
do.
just something that I didn't mention, and I want to address is that this is a serious thing we're doing. I want people to know that men and women dedicate a lifetime to what they do. I've been very fortunate. My seniority has afforded me to be able to be what I need to be the most effective. I'm 30 in seniority out of 31. Um, the lieutenant governor is my friend. He is a Tea Party Republican, but he helped me pass and gave me committee hearings to pass an extended bill to feed hungry children. And all these things are most important for people to know, to hear. There's a lot more to the story of
Yeah.
Eddie Lucio, and I didn't do it by myself. It was people that, the parents and grandparents of those listening right now that I've worked with over the years. Yes, I'm a senior, and I'm proud of it. But with that senior comes seniority, and the ability to get the job done. And I'm asking the people to afford me an opportunity to continue as their state senator, because I truly want to do what's best for our community.
Yeah. I had a few more questions that I wanted to ask. What in part of rapid fire, usually like a little bit of a break, but if you don't mind, um, what golf course would you want? What golf course would you want to play at? What is your favorite golf course? I'm
Well,
curious.
the one I haven't played, I've played a lot of golf courses over the years in the '80s and '90s, and even the early 2000s. I played every conceivable golf course of every major tournament that's ever been played. But the one I haven't played is the one in Atlanta, Georgia, the Masters, and I haven't played that one. So if I could, I'd like to play that one. But I did promise my son that when he graduated from law school and he got his law degree and passed his bar, that I would take him overseas to where golf all started.
Yeah,
And
Sam.
I would like to do that. I would like to do that before I go, to actually see the birthplace of golf. Um, a lot of people might not like it, but let me tell you that is an incredible game. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you hard work. It teaches you honesty. I have also had the ball move as I addressed it, and I count myself a stroke. It teaches you to live your life right.
Mhm. Yeah. The more serious question is, what's the first bill you'll file? Because you have to file bills almost immediately when you win. You have an idea what the first bill you may file is right now? Because
Right now, I'm looking at several issues other than the budget and redistricting and quotes. The number one issue is COVID. I want to see what we do for our public schools, get more funding to make sure that we echo the sentiments of our teachers, make sure that they're safe in their schools, that we uh, have the funds necessary to take care of the parameters of the school. But there's one bill that I want to pass, and that is a bill that helps counselors. A lot of counselors don't have the right a ratio that they can work with. They need a ratio that they can actually work with. I went to a school in San Benito, Texas. It's called Cash Elementary. 900 students in that school, and they only have one counselor, and that's just not fair.
yeah,
Because it's not fair to the kids, it's not fair to the counselor, it's not fair to the parents, because that counselor is not going to be able to see all those 900 kids in the course of 1 year. They're not going to be able to visit with all those parents, and consequently will not be as effective as she or he could be. So I want to add more counselors to the schoolhouse.
oh, that's a very very. We desperately need more counselors. That was actually an issue with BISD trying to potentially cut down taxes. I mean, positions and changing that around. Eddie De Los Santos is a Republican, and he has this question. Do Dems take Hispanics for granted, and does the Black Lives Matter movement specific focus of current Democratic Party distract from important issues to Latinos?
I've seen it, and quite frankly, I've felt, even as a public official, I've felt that the party takes us for granted, that we're going to just follow the crowd or follow the leader. And I think all of us need to stand up and voice our opinion about issues, voice our opinion about politics in general. So my advice to people is find yourself, ask yourself, who am I, where am I going, what do I want to accomplish, what is it that I'd like to see happen, not only for the welfare of my family, but my community, my state, my country. And finally, are we going to live in a nation under God? Or are we going to live in a nation, in a state without morals of any kind. No one's perfect. I'm the least perfect man in the world, but I try my best to follow, the advice of my parents, my grandparents, and those in the community, our religious leaders, our spiritual leaders, and do the very best thing I can to follow that morality. And that will bring us, to doing the right thing for our children. Uh, Nobody wants to see failure. We want to succeed. And the only way we can do that is by caring for one another, respecting one another, being understanding and loving of one another. That's, in a nutshell, that's my philosophy.
And I have two more questions, Manny's, and then we'll wrap it up. But Manny had a question for you, and then I'll ask my two questions, and then we'll be done.
Sure.
So
Manny?
we wanted to address the the elephant in the room, so to speak.
The what?
The elephant in the room, the big elephant in the room.
Okay.
Not me.
And your thoughts on the possibility of your opponent has been wanting to debate you, and she says you're dodging and you're dodging. And what is the possibility? What are your thoughts on debating your opponent at any point? And there's not much time left, but just your thoughts on that, or if you can address that.
Look, I want to make it very clear to everyone out there. I respect my opponent. She has the right to run for any office she wants. She chose to run for mine. She's run in several parties. I think the Green Party, the Democratic Party, now the Republican Party, and that she got the right to change parties too. I would hope that she can exert the energy she's exerting now to maintain and take care of her family. I'm praying for her because she lost her children. I feel sorry for her. I, I, I don't hate her. I don't despise her. She can say anything she wants, but I just told you what I'm about, and I would challenge her to be, somewhat like those that have more experience than she does in life as I do. Try to figure out what you need to do to put your life in order and to try to help those that, are out there in need of your help instead of just being critical and just talking and not really reaching any consensus about anything that you're trying to accomplish. I, I think that she deserves to be treated like a lady, which I have done. I haven't mentioned her at all until this moment. I still feel that she deserves the respect of anyone. She entered the arena. It's hard to enter that arena sometimes, and be able to sustain yourself in the presence of those that are going to be trying to figure out if they want to vote for you or not. I I, I think I offer more than she does, continuity, and I have the experience and knowledge and foresight of where we need to go. And unfortunately, at this time, she does not, in my humble opinion. So I wish her the very best. I don't wish to entangle myself with her in any way in a shouting match of any kind. That's not what this election is all about. It's about where we go from here.
Well said, sir. They're very, very nice.
And just the political question, and then I'll ask the last question because this is my second last question. Is you've been in Cameron County in particular, we've seen Sheriff Lucio lose his election, wanting a younger person for whatever reason. I felt his experience was more important than the young. That's just my personal opinion. We've seen long-term incumbents lose office. In local politics, longtime city commissioner who I've run against, Rick Longoria, lose. We've seen that happen. I don't foresee you losing this election, but do you feel that this will be your last term in office, not because you're afraid of losing, but because you might think it's time to go, or could you see yourself running for more time? Because I don't know if you're going to get the short end of the stick of having a 2-year term or a 4-year term, depending on how the census and draw goes. Do you have any ideas on that? That might be a bad question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
It's a great question. God will decide where I go from here. I personally feel strong mentally, emotionally, uh, physically. The older you get, obviously, you slow down a little bit, but I even feel strong there as well. Um, I started off this campaign by talking about four things about my experience, my seniority, my track record, and one important thing, relationships, which I touched on very little bit when I talked about the lieutenant governor. But I've worked hard to develop these four things over my years in public office to be in the best possible position to serve your interests at the state capitol, especially in the light of the current pandemic and the tremendous budget shortfall caused by COVID-19 recession. Um, there are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of things that we still don't know what's going to happen just a couple of months from now. But I think my experience has positioned me where I need to be to do the best I can for the valley. And I know that I can accomplish those by being able to work together with those that really care to accomplish things, not only for the valley, but for every corner of the state. So that's where I'm at. I even thought of running for governor one time. I felt that I would make a great governor because I would appoint people from every sector of the state, especially South Texas, men and women who have the ability to understand the needs of our children, whether it's healthcare or education. Um, commissions and boards that need men and women that know how to work together. Men and women of good faith as well. I would want a well-rounded person. It's not about the money. It's really about you know doing your best to address the issues of the day. That's it. It's not anything that can be accomplished. I don't think that will happen. But there's a young person out there listening right now that will be governor of this state,
Yeah.
and I hope to be alive to see it. A young Hispanic woman, a young Hispanic man that is growing up right here in our backyard, who was able to put it together, for himself, being educated, but always bringing everyone with you.
Right.
I saw a face mask the other day, and it was so important what it said on one side of that face mask. It said, "Leave no neighbor behind," and that is what we should always remember. It's about everyone, no matter who we deal with, that you want to bring along. Whether we agree or disagree, let's find middle ground. Let's find a way to get the job done because the people following us, are dependent on us. So I leave you with that thought.
Awesome. Senator, there was a question earlier. I'm assuming the rapid fire question from the former Clay County Republican Party chairman who has endorsed you. Texas A&M Kingsville or A&I? Which would you prefer?
That's a good one. I Can I tell you a little story in about a minute and a half?
That's fine.
I
Sure,
got
take
a
all
golf
the time.
scholarship at A&I, and people need to know this and hear this, okay? Because we don't want to go back to what happened to me at A&I. I love A&I. My dad went there, and he needed one semester to get his business, Bachelor of Business Administration. He ran out of money, had to come home. I had three brothers that graduated from there and a sister-in-law. But when I went there in the 60s, it's 1964, I showed up to my first period class. And I don't know if you heard me say this before, but when I got there, I went into the classroom. I sat up in front because I wanted to be able to hear the professor and maybe get a good grade. And he abruptly told me to get up and to stand aside. And I did. And then he hit the desk real hard and he got everybody attention. And he said this is something that we never want to go back to. And I witnessed it because I was there and he pointed his finger at me. He said, "I want all the white people to sit up here in front of this room. I want the black athletes in the middle and you Mexicans," and he pointed to me, "to get to the back of the room." That's the first time I had witnessed and felt discrimination in my life. And, you know, I don't want our kids ever to have to go through that in any way. But he said that, and it actually made me a better man because I did tell him off before I left. But I was a marked man for speaking out. Always speak your mind, is what I'm telling. But do it in a peaceful way. I told him about my dad and how proud he was for all of us to be Americans. And first, men and women of God, family and country, obviously a close second.
Yeah.
That actually happened to me. And I loved that school. I didn't graduate from there because of that. I went to Pan American and graduated there. But I would have loved to make my dad happy. He was a javelina, I mean, like no one other that I had ever met at that point. So, I like A&I, but I accept Texas A&M. You know, Texas A&M has an incredible chancellor in John Sharp. He's a very dear, close friend of mine. John Sharp and I have known each other for over 4 decades, and he's the best chancellor I can say there's anywhere in the country. He served in many positions. I love him dearly, like a brother. And someday, personally, I'll tell you a story about him that will make you teary-eyed. He's special. So it's A&I Javelinas for me, but it's Texas A&M Kingsville for the future.
The last question I want to ask is, and I mentioned to you before the show, and that is, we're in the midst of a very, very divisive election. I can't imagine any other more divisive election, at least in my lifetime. Maybe in the 60s, 68 might have been very divisive in our country, but I wasn't alive back then. And so I wanted to ask you, Senator, would you be willing to come on RioPolitics Live the Sunday after the election, win or lose, whether Biden wins or Trump loses, to lead us in a rosary? It is your rosary. You are a great man for willing to do rosaries for people who pass away. I think the first rosary I ever went to that you led the rosary for a funeral was the parents, the mother of our friend Paul Cowan and Ralph Cowan and Phil Cowan. Her mother at Sacred Heart, and it moved me that you did that and the way you do that. And so I want to ask, would you be willing to come on our show and lead us in a rosary this Sunday? And we'll find a time, more likely around 7:30, usually when we do our show in the evening. Would you be willing to do that for us?
I have been asked to do many things, Roman, but that is most important. To me, that's the greatest honor I could have in leading in that rosary.
Yeah, it's truly important. So thank you.
Be happy to.
Because we need this, and whether you're Catholic or not, you know, the rosary is a, for Catholics like myself and for you, Senator. I'm sure you lead us daily when you're weekly. You know, Ruben. One day, I hope our friend Ruben Obel will become Catholic, but you've done rosaries with him at the legislature, and so that's important to us. And people that are Protestant, that are not Catholic, don't understand that the rosary for us isn't that we're praying necessarily to the Virgin, the Blessed Virgin Mother, our Blessed Virgin Mother, Virgin Mary. We're asking for her intercession. We're just asking for her to think of us, and we pray to God at the same time. And her prayer.
That's right. That's right, Roman. You put it perfectly right. And yes, I've given rosaries to non-Catholics, and they've cherished it, and they still have them. Some of them have even looked up in the internet, you know, what a rosary is all about, and it's the greatest Catholic prayer ever.
It is. And so, and those of you that are coming, Senator Lucio will do the rosary. He knows how to do it. You won't hear me talking. It'll just be Senator Lucio, and it would just be him. And I want and encourage those of you to pray with us and pray with him for the unity of our country, regardless of whether your presidential candidate wins or loses. It doesn't matter. And Senator, you do have my endorsement. I've already publicly said it. I voted for you Sunday. It was a struggle to do it as a germaphobe, but we did it because it was important. And so my family have voted for you. Usually I end it with, what's your last thought for us as you let us go. And if you have anything we haven't touched on in the hour and 26 minutes we've been together.
I somebody's asking me what my favorite football team is, and I like Dallas, and I also like Houston. I like the football teams in our state. I wish they would win more, but I'm a fan. I'm a football fan, basketball fan. I'm like my dad. I love the Olympics. I love boxing. That is such a incredible sport. I don't like people getting hurt, no matter what sport they're in. My humble advice to everyone is it's hard right now because of the pandemic, especially for teachers to hug their students. It's even illegal because sometimes you get in trouble, but you can bring warmth to the heart of any person if you just smile at them. A smile will replace a hug, and a lot of people are in need of hugs right now. They have individual problems. My wife sometimes comes to me, and she's trembling because she's looking at what's going on TV, and she asks me where we're going, what's going to happen to us, what's going to happen to our grandchildren. We're concerned about what direction our country's going, but we can make things happen. The people of this country can change the direction we're going if they feel that direction is not taking us to the right place. So I challenge our people to roll up their sleeves, to go out and vote their conscience, vote whoever they support. To me, whoever gets elected, I'm going to work with them. I'm going to try my best to make them know more about the Valley, South Texas, and then, I certainly want us to do our very best so that the next generation can have it better than us. That's it.
Thank you, Father. I was going to call you Father. Thank you for coming on, because I appreciate you wanting to come on. I hope that you will be willing to come on our show, not just for the Rosary, for other times to talk about, because once this election is over, guys, that those of you who are watching us, the show is going to not just be about November's election. It's going to be about the Texas legislature and what Senator Lucio and Senator Chuy Hinojosa are doing for the Valley, and what our state representatives in our state, statewide office holders. On our show, we've had State Senator Lucio. We've had current sitting judges of the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. We're going to do that. We're going to continue to do that. And so we're going to focus a little bit more on the Texas legislature at least once a week. So hopefully Senator Lucio can come in and give us an update as to what he's doing for us, because I fully expect you to win this election in November. And so God bless you, Senator. Thank you.
Roman and Manny, let's do this during the session. I'll be happy to report back to you and people listening how the issues are going, how the budget's going, what is happening, to what's happening at the state level during this session. I will make sure I bring it to you, when it's happening. Just let me know, and let's pray. Let's pray for the people, the men and women who have lost their jobs, who are having a hard time making ends meet. We want to build up on the economy, and we want to do everything we can to get people back to work, but in a safe environment. We don't want any more people to die. We want a culture of love and not hate. And there's so much to live for, and we certainly will be there for those that need our support. I intend to continue to feed the hungry, which is one of my greatest, I want to say, thrills, but it's not a thrill. It's more than a thrill. It's something that I feel deep in my heart I need to do because my dad and my mom taught me how to do that. So there's a lot of things out there. You tell me what you want me to do for you, and I'll be there for you.
Yeah, I appreciate, Senator, because I really do think this legislative session is going to be so important, especially with the census and the redistricting. There's so many different issues that are going to happen. Thank you everybody for coming again. This is RioPolitics Live. Our episode today was powered by My East Restaurant. No, they didn't pay us for the advertising. I just like them. They're cool people. And so please go to Maiz. They have some great food. I didn't even ask you about menudo. Apparently, I've been told, Senator, you make a darn good menudo. And so, you know what? We're going to talk about that maybe on Sunday. Maybe
chicken soup.
Okay. There you go.
Also.
Oh, really? Chickens? You know?
Oh
I'll
my
talk
God.
about that one day. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please visit small business, support small business as much as possible, especially during this pandemic. And be safe. God bless you all. This is Real Politics Live. We don't do the news. We don't make the news. We just help you see it. God bless you all. Bye-bye.